which actually comprises of some very interesting topics regarding ophthalmology and very common but basics also. So to start with the session, I would like to request Dr. Waleed Ahmed Saab to please come and present his case.
My name is Dr. Waleed Ahmed. I'm currently working in glaucoma department at Shifa Trust Eye Hospital, Rawalpindi. So this is going to be a fairly small talk, and just to reiterate a few of the principles that we need to keep in our mind while starting the patients on anti-glaucoma medications for the first time. So how do we diagnose glaucoma? We know that glaucoma is a chronic and progressive optic neuropathy. And this is from the last World Glaucoma Association consensus meeting, in which they made this statement regarding the diagnosis of primary open-angle glaucoma, that the clinical diagnosis of glaucoma is predicated on the detection of a thin retinal nerve fiber layer and a narrowed neuroretinal rim. So you can see in this statement, there is no mention of IOP, no mention of OCT, no mention of visual field. And they made it the thing very easy for us to, just by looking at the rim, just by looking at the retinal nerve fiber layer, how can you make a conclusion that your patient is having glaucoma or not? For example, we have this patient, young patient, routine checkup, no positive family history of glaucoma. Everything is fairly routine. But somehow, the correction factor was applied on this patient, and the pressure of 17 became 21, and the pressure of 14 became 18. And this patient was using latanoprost drops in both eyes. And we can see the disc photos of both of these patients. We can see that this is a fairly normal disc. It is a big disc having a big cup, but the neuroretinal rim is intact, it is healthy, and this patient clearly does not have glaucoma. So what is the flaw in using cup to disc ratio for optic nerve evaluation? What is the inherent flaw? So it basically has three flaws. Although this system, it was suggested by Armali quite some time back, but it is user friendly and it has very acceptable reproducibility, but it has got three problems. Number one is that cup to disc ratio does not consider the possibility of focal narrowing, notching, or absence of the neuroretinal rim. The second thing is that the CDR, it does not account for the difference in optic disc cup sizes. And this is a big one, because the same cup to disc ratio may be pathologic in a patient with a very small disc, but it can be completely normal, just like in this patient with a much larger disc. So the third thing is that the cup to disc ratio does not account for the location of the cup. So an eccentrically located cup that results in an area of neuroretinal narrowing may be pathological even if the CD ratio is small. So we have three examples here. In the first case, we have a CDR of 0.4, and in the next case, we again have a CDR of 0.4. So the first patient is having, it's a normal patient, and the other one is having glaucoma. And then in another case, you have a CDR of 0.8, and then again it is normal. So in essence, these findings suggest that the size and the shape of the neuroretinal rim is much more important in the diagnosis of glaucoma than the size of the cup. And for this, the disc damage likelihood scale was suggested by George Speight. We know him from the famous classification system on gonioscopy. And this is one attempt to emphasize the importance of neuroretinal rim while also considering the size of the disc. So the basic principle of this system is that it is based on the narrowest rim width. Okay, so if you have a rim, you measure the size of that rim. If you don't have that, you measure the extent of the rim loss. For example, first of all, you will measure the disc size, then you will assess the width of the neuroretinal rim, and then you will grade the patient using the disc damage likelihoods, and we will just see the beauty of this system. So first of all, you will measure the disc size using the slit lamp, and then you will use the correction factor for, remember the correction factor for different lenses is different. So you will first of all find out the narrowest neuroretinal rim area, and if this narrowest rim is 0, then you will determine its circumference. For example, here, the neuroretinal rim narrowest here is 1/10 of the total vertical disc diameter, and in this another example, you don't have any rim. So then you will make adjustment for the disc size. So if you have an average size disc, this is the main point here, that it takes into account the disc size. So if you have an average size disc that is from 1.5 to 2 millimeters, you will make no adjustment. If you have a small disc, you will increase the DDLS stage by 1. If you have a large disc, you will decrease the DDLS stage by 1. So this classification scheme is from 1 to 10, which means that you get a number value, and that can tell us about the severity of the damage. So this is the scale. So how can you use this? For example, if you have a medium size disc, the normal one, that is going to be equivalent to G4 on the DDLS system for a 1.15 millimeter rim. But for a small disc, it is going to become G5, and for a large disc, it is going to become G3. How to make this thing a little bit easy? For example, you have this patient, and he has a DDLS stage of 4. So if, depending upon the disc size, if you have a small disc, you will increase the stage. If you have a large disc, you will decrease the stage by 1. Okay? So these are different discs, and I'll just quickly go through it. And it was, he wrote a paper on this, and he suggested that this system is correlated with the visual field damage as well. So he published this paper, and it showed that DDLS system was found to be strongly correlated with the degree of glaucomatous field damage. And that is by the way true for the cup to disc ratio as well. So it gives you a colored glaucoma graph, and the stage of the disease is graded considering the amount of the disc damage. The optic disc can be graded into 3 zones. So you have green zone, the yellow zone, and the red zone. And the green zone means that the patient is in DDLS 1 to 4 stage, which means that the patient right now does not have a definite damage. Okay. Then if you have a patient in the yellow zone, which means that the DDLS stage is 5 to 7. So here now the optic nerve is definitely damaged. And this patient, they still may be asymptomatic, but we need to be careful regarding these patients. And then the disability due to glaucoma is going to start, the practical disability is going to start at stage 8, 9, and 10. So remember that this system also has its inherent flaws. It is also not perfect. But what is the utility of the practical utility? We can see 3 different patients, and we follow up these patients, and we can see different outcomes. So every dot here is representing a single visit. So 3 patients having 3 different kinds of outcome. And your management is going to vary according to the rate of progression, which is basically the current standard in glaucoma care, that you need to know at which rate your patient is progressing, and then the life expectancy. So DDLS or not, your disc assessment should not only tell you about you the disease, but most importantly, it allows us to plot the rate of progression. So what is the practical, it has limitations as well, we discussed them already. And what is the practical implication? A DDLS can be determined without recourse to expensive imaging equipment. It provides a cheap method for assessing glaucomatous structural damage that could potentially be an optometrist, or particularly who lack access to OCT, to improve the accuracy of decisions regarding whether patients should be referred to a glaucoma consultant or not. We're seeing so many patients coming to our department just for an OCT, just for a visual field testing. And this system can be applied even by an optometrist who just has got a slit lamp and a lens. एक वो लेंस है उसके पास स्लिट लैम्प है, वो अंदाजा कर सकता है कि मेरा जो पेशेंट है वो इस वक्त जो है ग्लाकोमा के, उसको है भी कि नहीं ग्लाकोमा, और फिर किस स्टेज पे है. थैंक यू सो मच. जी सर. उसमें सर ये कि जो आपका 66 डी, इसमें सर सिर्फ वो की बात नहीं है, जो डिफरेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं उनकी भी डिफरेंस है. अगर फॉर एग्जांपल वो एक लेंस बनाता है तो उसमें फॉर एग्जांपल आपका अगर 66 डायोप्टर लेंस है तो उस पर करेक्शन फैक्टर 1.1 होगा. 90D में सर वो आपने थोड़ा सा 0.1 एग्जैक्ट मुझे याद नहीं है, वो उसमें जो टेबल है वो आपको दे देते हैं, इसका जो डिटेल्ड स्कोरिंग सिस्टम है उसमें उसने ये दिया हुआ है, पेपर में मेंशन किया हुआ है कि आपके पास ये अगर लेंस पड़ा हुआ है, लेकिन वो का अगर किसी और कंपनी का होगा तो फिर उसमें भी आपने उस तरह एडजस्ट करना है, और उस तरह आप अपने पेशेंट को प्रोग्रेशन भी उसकी मॉनिटर कर सकते हैं. एक तो डायग्नोज कर सकते हैं कि उसको द बेसिक आइडिया बिहाइंड, यू माइट नॉट बी और यू मे or may not be using this class. Busy OPD where you have to see 40 to 50 patients per day, you might not be able to see. But the basic crux of this classification system is that it tells you the importance of the neuroretinal rim, कि वो कितना important है एक ग्लाकोमा के पेशेंट को पहली दफा डायग्नोस करने के लिए, कि just by seeing a vertical cup to disc ratio of 0.8 or 0.9 does not mean the patient has glaucoma. और वो पेशेंट जो है वो ड्रॉप्स यूज कर रहा है, अगर फॉर एग्जांपल लेटेनोप्रास यूज कर रहा है तो उसको कोई सिस्टमिक साइड इफेक्ट नहीं है, लेकिन उसके लोकल बहुत ज्यादा है. अगर वो कोई और ड्रॉप यूज कर रहा है तो उसकी सिस्टमिक बहुत ज्यादा है और पेशेंट को 10 साल बाद पता चलता है कि मुझे तो था ही नहीं ग्लाकोमा. तो उसमें जो है जो मेन उसका जो प्रेमिस है वो यही है कि वो आपको रिम की असेसमेंट बताता है, जिस तरह हमने पहली स्लाइड में पढ़ा कि जो वर्ल्ड ग्लाकोमा एसोसिएशन दे रिव्यू थाउजेंड्स ऑफ पेपर इन एवरी मीटिंग. इनकी जो भी मीटिंग होती है हजारों पेपर्स ये आपस में असेस करते हैं, डिस्कस, और देन दे केम अप विद दिस कंसेंसस स्टेटमेंट just to important and reiterate the importance of the neuroretinal rim, कि rim की क्या importance है और rim को जो है आपको कितना फोकस. You may not be able to follow this in every patient, और जरूरी नहीं अगर मायोपिक पेशेंट है तो उसमें शायद आप इस स्कीम को इतना आसानी से फॉलो नहीं कर सकें, क्योंकि उनका जो वो है. जी जी ऐसे ही है जी सर.
Thank you.
तो कहने का मकसद ये कि वो जरूरी नहीं कि आप हर पेशेंट में इस तरह को, लेकिन आपको और एक ऑप्टोमेट्रिस्ट भी ये ना कि इसमें आपको किसी टूल की जरूरत नहीं है. आप पेशेंट को जो है बहुत आसानी से लो रिसोर्स के साथ, और आपको पता चल सकता है कि इस पेशेंट को मैं आगे जो है किसी ग्लाकोमा डिपार्टमेंट में रेफर करूँ या
Next
ना.
one. जी, thank you very much.
थैंक यू सर.
So now I request Dr. Hanif Malik Saab, please come and give his talk.
Actually, it is a video presentation. Mostly cases are pediatric cases, 1 or 2 cases, adult patients. We can come across posterior capsule rupture in pediatric cases as well. And this first case, the first case is, it is a myopic patient, high myop. It was like, I don't remember the exact power of the lens, but it was around +6 or +7 like that. So the posterior capsule of the myopic patients is very delicate. So be careful when you are doing lensectomy or lens aspiration in myopic patients. So be careful. You can very easily rupture the posterior capsule. Be careful with myopic eyes. You can see this, this one, you can see there is rent over there. This one is second case of myopic of a myopic patient, and you can see the rent over there. But if you can put the IOL in the bag with this technique. This is new multi-piece IOL, and it is very surgeon friendly. You can put it in the bag, and later you can do posterior capsulotomy in these patients. You can confirm it with Kanakart staining. You see this one vitreous is stained. So I did the vitrectomy, anterior vitrectomy with this. Sometimes what happens with you is, this is a child, and then if the cataract is thick, it is attached with the anterior capsule sometimes. So when you are doing aspiration, then you can pull the posterior capsule with you. Just see. You see, there is light flickering, and over there where I am cutting, there is PC rat. This one. You can see this one was enlarged. I did the posterior capsulotomy, then I aspirated the lens, particle matter and lens. जी सर, मैं चैम्बर मेंटेनर और विट्रेक्टमी कटर, मैं लेंजेक्टमी के लिए उसी को यूज करता हूँ. No, because this one people are doing this with phaco aspiration of field scatter. I am not. No, I am not doing this. I aspirated the lens matter, and then I put the multi-piece. When I was putting the multi-piece, then the pupil constricted. It was very difficult for me to capture the lens. Then I put the iris hooks, and then I captured the lens. This one I just want to show you. Capsule Rexis is 1-year-old child. This capsule is very elastic. You should have a lot of patience to complete this, and always grab the Rex capsule near the hinge. This one you can see there is, when I was aspirating, you can see the opening in the posterior capsule. But maintain AC depth. This is very important, because if you will, if your AC is not maintained, your PC will open. I put the IOL and then I captured it. This one is capturing, and it is equally as good as in the back. Just look. Prematurely, I came out of the back of the anterior chamber. In next case, yes, no, see, this PC will open like this. So be aware and always use gel. Gel is, there is a famous quote that gel is cheaper than vitreous. So use gel. Lens is captured. In traumatic cataracts, always expect PCTF. When you reach the posterior capsule, there might be PCTF. Like in this case, you see there is PC is ruptured. So I cut this posterior capsule. There is scarring on the posterior capsule. I enlarged it with my cutter, and then I put the IOL and I captured it. This person came to me with this traumatic cataract. He was 22 years old. So I did the lens aspiration. I am a great advocate, not doing all the things in one sitting. Go step by step. First, I did this aspiration of the lens, but I find that there was inflammation, so I deferred my surgery for the second step. And then I aspirated this in that setting, and then I did the posterior capsule Rexis, because there was no bag in this patient. So I did the posterior capsule Rexis. This I am doing the posterior Rexis. It is not difficult. If you are trained enough in anterior capsule Rexis, you can do posterior capsule Rexis. It just needs a little bit of courage and training. I did the anterior vitrectomy. I put the IOL, and it was like in the back. So this was a adult patient, 60 years old person. It was like 2-hour surgery, and I put the CTR, then I put the hooks, but when I reached this stage, there was PC rank. You can see there is a deficient posterior capsule. I took out the CTR, I confirmed the vitreous with Canacard. This is the vitreous. So I stained it. I did vitrectomy. Then I did the scleral fixation. So this is the take-home message for all my dear colleagues, that a good surgeon is one who knows his limitations Don't overdo. Don't be adventurous. Don't be heroic. I did this adventurism and I had to pay for that. Just see this. Know your limitation. So I put the IUL in the bag in the first shift. I did the posterior capsulotomy, but the lens came out of the bag. And I was trying to put it in the bag again. And when I was trying to put it in the bag, this happened. Yeah, look, I'm holding the this one with the hook, and I am trying to grab it, and it has gone down. Titanic has gone. So, because I am working in a setting in Al Shifa, I had lot of help. I called my vitreoretina colleague. He came to my rescue. He took the lens out. He put it in the sulcus, and I finished the case. Thank you very much. Any questions? I was forced to do it. It is much better to replace it, but sometimes your situation is like that, and when there's no source, and you are already tired with 1.5 hours a week, so you can replace, but you feel like it's better.
Also, separate, if you have a everything and captured with 80 pants. These were all patients who have two structural, posterior polar capture. I put it in the bag, in the anterior chamber, and then I captured. Yeah. If there is posterior capsulated, I put it in the bag straight away, and then I put it. Then if I want, I put it, I can capture it, especially in large eyes like myopic eyes. They are larger. So I feel much safer if I capture the bag under the posterior.
Thank you.
Are in the bag and then is captured behind the.
Thank you very much, sir. So now I request Dr. Aisha Fawad Saiba. Please come.
So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Dr. Aisha Fawad. I'm from FIO. I work there as a consultant ophthalmologist, also in refractive surgery department. Today I will be sharing our study in which we explored the role of losartan drops in corneal opacities. So what is losartan? We all know it's a very popular antihypertensive drug, and it has been there in use since 2009 and has a very established safety profile for human use. It's basically an angiotensin receptor 2 inhibitor, and what it does is that it basically inhibits the TGF beta, which is the transforming growth factor beta. This is a compound or a chemical that is working in the cornea whenever there is an epithelial injury. There's a cascade of inflammatory processes that occur at this point whenever there is epithelial injury on the cornea, and one of the mediators is TGF beta. TGF beta actually converts the fibroblasts into myofibroblasts, and myofibroblasts are those cells which are responsible for producing the scarring, and they also produce disorganized extracellular matrix in the cornea. So what we are doing here with the help of losartan is that we are inhibiting this TGF-beta. In this picture, we can see that the myofibroblasts and the fibroblasts and all the extracellular matrix, which is disorganized, is gradually removed with the help of losartan. But this process takes months to happen. Doesn't happen in days. Losartan is already used because of its fibrinolytic activity in organs like heart, valve. Secondly, for corneal skin scarring, also in cystic fibrosis for the removal or reversal of fibrosis in lungs, kidneys, also in liver. So when these things were going on, Dr. Wilson, he's a scientist in USA. What he did was that he studied losartan for cornea. He carried out animal studies and rabbit studies. Then he trains refractive surgeons and corneal surgeons abroad in Brazil and in Europe to use this special medicine for cornea. And then the first published case report was by a very famous refractive surgeon who is Renato Ambrosio Jr., and almost every one of us has heard of him. He reported that losartan drops, they worked for corneal opacity. Dr. Wilson says that the best part of losartan drops is that it penetrates a healthy, intact epithelium and basement membrane. They suggest that not more than 0.8 milligram per ml concentration should be used for this purpose. Higher concentrations can be unsafe, that's why. And another case report and another study suggests that if there is breach in epithelium, then 0.2 milligram per ml is enough, because higher concentrations can be slightly epithelial toxic. So we are conducting a study which is a randomized controlled trial at FIO, and we have registered it with the International Trial Registry of Sri Lanka, and we are recruiting around 30 patients in each group. One is getting the control, one is the control group, which is getting the standard treatment. The other is the trial group or the treatment group. Of course, more than 18 years patients are being recruited for the purpose of ethics and also for consent taking. Corneal opacities of all origins are being recruited, those post-infections, post-trauma, surgery, chemical injuries, any kind of origin is being recruited for this purpose. We're taking informed consent of the patients. Patients are being counseled in detail about any side effects that they experience, and they can report to us. The team is constantly in contact with the patients, and if they have any side effects, they do report them to us. This is the process. We take we actually prepare the solution in a sterile environment in the hospital pharmacy with the help of crushed losartan tablets, 25 milligram tablet, usually mixed with around 31.25 ml of BES. That is the recommendation by Dr. Wilson, and it is used around the recommended dose is 6 times in a day. And we take pre and post treatment anterior segment photographs, and they are assessed by 2 different surgeons, consultants, and they are blinded for the purpose of to remove the bias by the observer. Follow-up is at 1, 3, and 6 months. Now I will be sharing some of our initial preliminary reports. This is the first patient. She is a 20 years girl. She had macular keratitis. She was referred to us in the refractive surgery department for a PTK, basically with resistant corneal opacities, and they were like they originated almost 2 years ago. So no steroids, no nothing was actually working on her, and she had these opacities were visually significant. She was our first case. And we can see post-operatively at 3 months we got the result that the cornea became clear, almost clear, with improvement in the visual acuity as well. However, there was small, like there was some faint spots, they were still there. And at 6 months, just before coming to the conference, I again saw her. She's almost completed her 6 months duration, and she still has those spots where we can locate that the original opacities existed. But overall, she has improved vision, and her cornea is markedly clear as compared to the start point. This is a person who is 28 years old. He was a soldier. He got blast injury and he had trauma to his cornea. He had surgeries, repairs, and had some corneal opacity, which was also invaginating. You can see involving pupillary area as well. After 6 months, we can see that his pupillary area is now clearing, and he is also responding to losartan drops. This is our third case. She is a girl, 20 years aged, and she had some vague dystrophic cornea. We couldn't really put her into, categorize her into any particular kind of corneal dystrophy, but she had some deeper stromal bands, grayish bands, and we also observed some improvement in her case as well. It's just been 3 months that she is using her drops, and we are keeping an eye on her, and will continue till 6 months as per our trial initial period. This is a young girl who had CXL. The scarring was deep, and the history of CXL was for 1 year, and we used losartan drops for her, and we found some improvement in her cornea. Although vision we couldn't improve a lot because of probably the corneal distortion, but still there was some improvement. Again, a post-PRK patient, we found improvement. This was a patient 60 years age, had TRAB, did not have any improvements, and also reported some giddiness with the use of drops. So we stopped medicine in his case. So I'll conclude by saying that we found that losartan did work, although it wasn't magic, and we had to show a lot of patience for this, but the one good thing about it was that patients tolerated it very well. Only one patient that I showed had reported some side effects, and we would, we did not encourage him to use the drop any further. And that's all. If you have any questions, so you're most welcome to ask. It's not available in the market. We're just preparing it in the pharmacy with the help of, you can take a 25 milligram tablet, crush it in its packaging, crush it within the package to keep it sterile, and mix it with BES, almost 31.25 ml of BES. We have done the calculations with the recommended concentrations you can get on internet, especially recommended by Dr. Wilson. It is 0.8 milligram per ml or 0.08%, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so the thing is that losartan potassium is the compound that they say that, it can last for a month. You can keep, what we do is that we keep the patients, we keep supplying the drug to the patients whenever it's finished, because, you have to give so much amount of it. It's 6 times a day, so you have to give a lot of bottles. Only those patients who can come and take it, replenish their stores, only they are usually being recruited at the moment by us. But, since it's working, and patients also somehow are reporting, good outcomes themselves, they are also feeling good about it. So they come and feel encouraged to take it from us. So, of course, we do not have too many answers to the preservation and how long it will survive in the fridge. We don't know too many details of that, but all we can tell is that it's working at the moment for us, at least. No, we are not using artificial tears. We are using BES because that's the recommendation, and that is basically to maintain some pH values with the compound, actually.
So basically, to sum up, it's basically a pilot study हो रही है. ऐसा ही है मैडम?
जी, it's
a pilot study है to find out the efficacy of a systematically used drug for the control of hypertension to be used in the future cases for the topical use. तो उनकी अपनी फॉर्मूले ने प्रिपेयर किया है. स्पेशलाइज्ड जो बंदे फार्मासिस्ट हैं, दे आर ट्रेन्ड फॉर दैट. वो ये नहीं हो कि आप कुंडी में लेके उसको शुरू कर दें जैसे लोगों ने वेस्टर्न में किया था. इट्स अ स्पेशलाइज्ड कोहेसिव प्रॉपर आइडियलाइज्ड एनवायरनमेंट है जहाँ पे बना के तो फिर उनको दे रहे. ऐसा ही है मैडम?
जी सर, बिल्कुल ऐसा.
स्ट्रक्चर
It's
Sir,
not
आप
here.
शुरू कर
It's
दें।
off-label use
शुरू
is
कर
going
दें।
on in USA and also
But we
it's
do it in a
available in India, I
aesthetically way.
heard. And I'm not too sure,
ताकि
but
contamination ना
we
हो।
can see the
Actually,
pictures on
pharmacist
the
is available
internet.
in every hospital.
Yeah.
Pharmacist is there in every private
they are-
and government hospital.
But
So
they are
you
not
can-
trained, geared up for that कि वो solid को liquid में convert करें, homogeneous solution
They
बनाना
can
है।
work on that. They can develop a network.
Just to add that off-label use is going on in USA, in other countries, Brazil, they're working on it, and also in India. These drops are, you can see on internet, you can see prepared pharmacy labeled drops, but of course, they're being locally produced, not as far commercially available in the
So
market.
it's a first step in the right
It's a
direction.
first step. Hopefully, yes. We were really excited to see the results, so we thought we should share it
Hopefully,
with you.
inshallah.
Thank
So
you
now
so
I
much.
request Dr. Fatima Zahra sir.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, I'm Fatma Zahra and I will be presenting on behalf of Dr. Zubaida Sarang. So our topic today is efficacy of manual small incision cataract surgery, extracapsular cataract extraction and phaco, which is a systematic review and meta-analyses. This is a protocol we're going to present today. We don't have the results yet, but we're working on it. But we felt it is imperative that we bring it into discussion because this is about our setting, low middle income countries. So the background. As we all know, cataract remains the leading cause of blindness. We've been talking about it throughout the conference now. And it does disproportionately affect lower and middle income countries, and unfortunately Pakistan falls in that category. So these are the three things that we will be comparing. Firstly, we have the manual small incision cataract surgeries, and I will be referring to it throughout the presentation as MSICs. Number one, they're cost effective and suitable for resource limited setting. The second one that we're comparing is extracapsular cataract extraction, ECCE. So this is, as we know, an older technique which requires larger incisions, although it's still widely used in some regions. And then lastly, we have phaco, which is an advanced technique offering quick recovery and better outcomes, but it does require costly equipments and expertise. So the rationale for this study, why we felt there's a need to compare these three, varied settings and resource availability necessitate evidence-based guidance on the most effective and accessible surgical approaches. So currently everything that is being done is done on the basis of people and how they feel we should carry out certain procedures. But there is a need of an evidence-based study. Secondly, this study aims to compare efficacy and safety of MSICs, ECCE, and phaco in lower income settings. And then finally, findings will guide policymakers and practitioners in tailoring cataract surgical services to meet population needs efficiently and equitably. So our research question is, what is the best way of removing the lens in cataract surgery, especially in lower income settings? In the methodology, these are the three databases that we're using, which is Cochrane, PubMed, and Scopus. And the search terms that we have included as part of our study includes manual small incision cataract surgery, phaco emulsification, ECCE, cataract, LMICs, or developing countries. In our methodology, within the inclusion criteria, we have a study design which includes the interventional studies. Our population is people who have age-related cataract or senile cataract within the low middle income countries. The intervention that we look for is MSICs, and then the comparison is, of course, the ECCE and phaco. The outcomes that we look for in the study is visual acuity at 3 months and 1 year after the surgery, the quality of life, basically improvement within the quality of life, and cost effectiveness. English language, and the timeline is 2004 to 2024, so basically we're seeing at 20 years. Our exclusion criteria is case reports or case series, gray literature, and systematic reviews and meta-analysis. And how we're doing the quality assessment is through the ROB tool, which is the risk of bias assessment tool, which is done by 2 independent reviewers. And things that we include when we're extracting data from the study, so which is done by 2 independent reviewers, are author's name, year of publication, country, age, gender, sample size, setting, intervention and comparison groups, and the outcomes. And within our statistical analysis, these are the things that we're focusing on. So we have our study with net meta package. Binary outcomes will be reported as odd ratios with 95% confidence interval. Continuous outcomes will be reported as mean difference and standardized mean differences. Heterogeneity will be measured using I-square statistic and Q-test. Funnel plots will be used to represent publication bias. And then finally, the p-value of less than 0.05 will be taken as statistically significant. So what are we expecting from this meta-analysis is, these are the expected outcomes. Number one is the efficacy. So clear identification of most effective surgical techniques within the 3 in terms of post-operative visual acuity and overall patient outcome. And then secondly, we're also looking at the safety. So ranking of techniques based on complication rates, highlighting the safest approach. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Sir. So now I request Dr. Mohammad Saeed Khan Saab for his presentation.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected colleagues. This is a session of comprehensive ophthalmology, where I see the galaxy of senior ophthalmologists, consultant ophthalmologists. Our friend Dr. Jahangir is very much there, and our residents are there. So my topic today is feedback. Feedback for the residents and students. My love affair for the medical education developed when I done my diploma course from King Edward Medical University last year. I came across new terminologies, new things. It was beyond my thinking. Medical education has changed whole of my plethora regarding the teaching and regarding the dealing with the residents. Feedback क्या चीज है? If I want to buy a mobile of latest model, so what will I say? I request Professor Jahangir, you have bought a new model of Samsung. Please tell me regarding the salient features. 2-3 चीजें मैं जो चाहूंगा. बैटरी टाइम कितना है, उसकी कैमरा की जो है वो कितनी है, मेगापिक्सल का कैमरा है, और तीसरा उसका जो फंक्शनिंग है वो इस यूजर फ्रेंडली है कि नहीं है. So that इसके क्या होगा retrospectively, so that I can buy a good model at a cheaper rate. ऐसा ही है. ये है feedback regarding general terms. तो feedback regarding the medical terms, regarding especially regarding ophthalmologist क्या है? Specific information about the comparison between a trainees or students performance or observed performance and the standard which is being, we have yardstick हमने एक बना ली हुई है कि ये यहाँ तक ये चीज करनी चाहिए उसको. With the intent, हमारा क्या है, ज़हन में क्या है? So we want to improve the performance of that training. We want to improve the performance of that student. ये है basically feedback. When to give the feedback? Right from the very beginning. क्या first year को जो resident आया उसको ही देना शुरू करते हैं? Yes. अगर आप first resident आ गया तो जो आपने पहली ophthalmology की उसको ट्रेनिंग देनी है वो है targeted history focused examination. अक्सर क्या होता क्या है कि जब हमारे पास रेजिडेंट पहले 6 महीने साल में होता है, सिर्फ वीएन चेक की है, डिक्रीज्ड वीएन लिखा हुआ है, डी ऐसे नीचे बना के एरो डिक्रीज्ड वीएन फॉर द लास्ट 6 मंथ, वीएन 612 एडवाइज्ड राइट फेको विद आईयूएल. They don't even bother to check the pupillary reaction. They don't bother to check the IUP. When I inquired, please have you checked this? Sir, digitally बिल्कुल ठीक है, मैंने देखा था. Have you checked regurgitation? सर वो है ही नहीं, देखा ना, टीयर फिल्म बिल्कुल नॉर्मल है. तो ये चीजें मेरे काफी डेली हम लोग इनकाउंटर करते हैं. और जो सीनियर रेजिडेंट होगा उसको क्या करना है, आपने उसको कहना है कि आर यू वेल वर्स्ड विद द रीसेंट गाइडलाइंस. नाइस गाइडलाइंस आ गई हैं, यूकेपीडीएस है, आपको हैव यू गॉन थ्रू दीज. तो ये आपका 4th ईयर या जो फाइनल रेजिडेंट है उसके मुतालिक आप उसको ऐसे गाइड करेंगे. फॉर्मल मिड कोर्स फीडबैक, मिड कोर्स में ये है कि उसने अब जा रहा है आईएमएम के लिए। बल्कि मैं आप सब लोगों को बता दूं कि पिछले दिनों ये कैरस की मीटिंग में ब्रिगेडियर जनरल मजहर इसाक इज नाउ they want to introduce back the reflection module because the reflection skills are being lost in the air. तो दे आर प्लानिंग, कॉलेज इज प्लानिंग कि एक तो उन्होंने कर दिया हुआ है कि अब आपको नो नीड टू राइट अ डिसर्टेशन, यू कैन राइट अ पेपर. सेकेंडली माइट बी इन couple of few months or next year they might be introducing back the optic refraction module which was held previously. और एंड ऑफ द कोर्स अब आपका जा रहा है बंदा फॉर द FCPS पार्ट 2 के लिए या MM के लिए, तो आपने उसको क्या उसको प्रॉपर तरीके पे ड्रिल्स उसकी बेहतर करनी है. बेसिकली एग्जाम क्या चीज है, इट्स नॉट ओनली द मेमोरी जो आपका आपने चीजें सीखनी है, बल्कि ड्रिल है कि किस तरह से आप लोग स्लिट लैंप्स ऑन करते हैं, किस तरह से ऑफ करते हैं, इनडायरेक्ट किस तरह से लगाते हैं, ये ड्रिल आपने उसको बतानी है. नेगेटिव फीडबैक और पॉजिटिव फीडबैक एक्सपीरियंसेस बाय द लर्नर्स. जागीर साहब बैठे हैं, हम लोग जब हम लोग रेजिडेंट थे तो आर फीडबैक वाज नॉट ओनली फीडबैक बट वाज बेइज्जती प्रोग्राम. कौन था रेजिडेंट इसकी कॉम्प्लिकेशन नहीं, कॉर्निया किससे नहीं होते थे स्फेयर, या पीसी रेंट किससे नहीं होता था. व्हाट दे कॉल ऑल द रेजिडेंट वन बाय वन, सारी फैकल्टी बैठी हुई है. हाँ जी क्या हुआ था, आपके केसेस जो है वो खराब हो रहे हैं, तो व्हाई नॉट आपकी सर्जरी बंद कर दी जाए. फैकल्टी सारी बैठी है, रेजिडेंट खड़ा है. नो द थिंग्स हैव चेंज्ड अ लॉट. मेडिकल एजुकेशनिस्ट कहते हैं नो, पहले एजुकेशन जिसने देना है ट्रेनर है वो 1-to-1 रखे, प्लान करके आए क्या पूछना है क्या सिक करना है, एक फोकस दो. तो ये नेगेटिव फीडबैक जो है वो ह्यूमिलिएशन बेइज्जती प्रोग्राम नहीं होना चाहिए. कमेंट्स अबाउट द पर्सनैलिटी, आप कपड़े सुबह जब पहन के आते हैं तो वॉश नहीं करके आते. हमारा एक रेजिडेंट था, वो डेली जो है वो कोविड के दिनों में उसने कोई मेरे ख्याल है 1 महीने बाद चेंज करता था मास्क. हमने उसको कुछ नहीं कहा, हमने कहा ठीक है, लेकिन इनडायरेक्टली उसको मैंने बुला के तो मैंने उसको समझाया यार अगर आपको ये उन दिनों में इट वाज थॉट टू बी वन ऑफ द सेफ्टी मेजर्स कि आपने मास्क डेली चेंज करना है. तो अगर बेहतर नहीं है यार हम लोग ऐसा करें कि यहाँ पे एक डब्बा रख देते हैं. तो आई बॉट माई सेल्फ उसको 200 का या 300 का मिल रहा था. मैंने कहा यार एक रूटीन बना लेते हैं सारे, मैं भी डेली आऊंगा इस डब्बे से उठाऊंगा. जो घर से पहन के आते थे हम लोग वो वहीं तो आते थे, डिपार्टमेंट की एंट्री के ऊपर रखा हुआ था हमने एक मास्क का डब्बा, और वो उससे उसकी आदत खत्म हो गई. और वो जो बिल्कुल 1 महीने बाद यूज करके रखता था वो उसको पर्सनल अटैक नहीं किया. फिर क्या करना है, लैक ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. अगर ट्रेनी नहीं इंटरेस्ट ले रहा तो फिर आपने उसको इंथुजियास्टिकली नहीं बताना, ना जर्नल देना है कि यार कल ऐसे हुआ था, मैं देख रहा था कि आप लोग जो है वो बड़ा पेशेंट के साथ बड़ा मिसबिहेव कर रहे थे. क्या मिसबिहेव करते, क्या हो रहा था. जर्नल के साथ फीडबैक विल नॉट बी वर्किंग फॉर द बेटरमेंट ऑफ द रेजिडेंट. पॉजिटिव फीडबैक क्या होगा, एक्टिवली लिसन करे, जो आप बता रहे हैं शॉर्ट हो, फोकस्ड हो, उसमें स्पेसिफिक उसको क्रिटिसाइज भी करना है. ये चीज अब मेरे ख्याल के मुताबिक आप जब एप्लीकेशन कर रहे थे तो बार बार आप जो है वो उसको लगा रहे थे और आपने पैल्पेबल फिशर को ओपन किए बगैर जो है ना वो कर रहे थे. लोकल एस्थेटिक डाला था लेकिन आप दरमियान में बातों में लग गए और पेशेंट की सेंसिटिविटी जो 2 to 3 मिनट्स में आनी थी वो खत्म हो गई हुई थी. प्रॉपर स्पेसिफिक उसको दें, एंड देयर इज अ जेन्युइन डिजायर टू हेल्प, नॉट टू डिग्रेड हिम. पर्पस क्या होगा, पर्पस ये है कि अगर मेरे पास स्टूडेंट है तो उसको मैं इन्फॉर्म करूंगा आपकी प्रोग्रेस अच्छी जा रही है, बट देयर आर सर्टेन लैकुनास हैं जो कि आपने बेहतर करने ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. Inform the students regarding their learning needs. Learning needs with the passage of first year, second year, third year, fourth year तक वेरी करती हैं. तो वो जो आउटकम्स हैं आपने उन आउटकम्स के वाले से अपने रेजिडेंट को गाइड करना है और उसको मोटिवेट करें कि जो तुम्हारी लर्निंग नीड्स और लर्निंग एक्टिविटीज हैं वो गोल डायरेक्टेड हों, वो स्पेसिफिक हों और पैटर्न हों. कुछ लोग कंफ्यूजन पैदा करते हैं कि फीडबैक और एवेल्युएशन में क्या फर्क है. तो माइंड यू कि फीडबैक फॉर्मेटिव होता है, चल रहा होता है, वेरी फर्स्ट डे से लेके आखिर तक चलता जाएगा. सबमिटिव क्या है, एट द एंड ऑफ द, जैसे हमारा 4th ईयर के बच्चा है वो हमारे पास 1st ईयर में आएगा और 4th ईयर की पहले क्लासेस होंगी तो वो उसको हम उसका वॉर्ड टेस्ट लेंगे या बाद में उसके टर्म टेस्ट लेंगे या स्टैंड अप लेंगे. तो वो जो एट द एंड यूक्यू एग्जाम है जो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ हेल्थ साइंसेज ले रही है वो क्या है, वो सबमिटिव एग्जाम है, या पास है या फेल है. So it provides the information regarding the improve the performance उसको बताएंगे कि यार आपने जो इस वक्त वार्ड टेस्ट दिया था वो मुझे लग रहा था कि आपकी जो है वो आपने सही आइडेंटिफिकेशन नहीं कर रहे थे, ड्रग्स कहाँ एंटी ग्लाइकोमा ड्रग्स कौन सी, इनके साइड इफेक्ट क्या क्या हैं। जबकि एवेल्युएशन में उसकी परफॉर्मेंस असेस होगी, बट ही हैज लर्नड, और यहाँ पे क्या है हम असेस कर रहे हैं और लर्निंग प्रोसेस कैसे चल रहा है। सो वो एंड ऑफ द कोर्स के ऊपर है, ये ऑन गोइंग प्रोसेस है। फीडबैक जो है, मैकेनिज्म क्या होंगे, टू बी वेरी ब्रीफ, फॉर्मल फीडबैक और इनफॉर्मल फीडबैक। फॉर्मल फीडबैक ये है उसको टाइम दें कि सैटरडे यूजली हमारा जरा रश का दिन कम होता है, ओपीडी का, थिएटर भी नहीं उस दिन होता, तो यार आप लोग ऐसा करो 12 बजे के बाद ना मैं आपसे चाहूंगा कि 1-to-1 मीटिंग कर लो। इनफॉर्मल क्या है, जाते हुए लिफ्ट पे जा रहे हैं, कॉलेज के प्रिंसिपल के पास मिलने जा रहे हैं, एमएस को मिलने जा रहे हैं, चलो यार मेरे साथ चलता जाओ, तो इनफॉर्मल तरीके पे आप उसको जाते जाते टिप ऑफ एन आइसबर्ग बताते जाएंगे कि यार ये ऐसे लग रहा है, मुझे ऐसे लग रहा है, तो आपका क्या ख्याल है। उसके इस तरह से उसको पता भी नहीं चले और उसको पता भी हो कि मेरी थोड़ी थोड़ी वैल्यूएशन, मेरा एग्जामिनर या मेरा टीचर या मेरा सीनियर कुलीग जो है कंसल्टेंट ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट जो है मेरे साथ काम कर रहा है वो मुझे देखी जा रहा है। पर्पस क्या होगा, कंस्ट्रक्टिव होना चाहिए, नॉट टू ruin द फ्यूचर ऑफ दैट रेजिडेंट। इंस्पायरिंग फीडबैक और करेक्टिव फीडबैक है, उसकी परफॉर्मेंस को हमने बेहतर करना है। उसको हमने ये नहीं करना कि यार आपका तो पीसी रेंट का रेट ज्यादा है तो अब आप ऐसा करो आपकी सर्जरी 6 महीने के लिए बंद कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज आपका पीसी रेंट तो हर रोज ही हो रहा है। उसको हमने इंप्रूव करना है। व्हाट आर द थिंग्स जो कि जहाँ पे लेकुना है, क्या आपको जरूरत है, क्या चीज लर्न करने की, वूंड में आपका क्या प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे हैं, वूंड स्ट्रक्चर जो फेकोगा है वो ठीक नहीं है, आप एसी जो आपका मेंटेन नहीं हो रहा, या आप फुट पैडल बड़े उसका नाम क्या है जोर से प्रेस कर रहे हैं कि सीधा ही वो उसका नाम क्या है न्यूक्लियस को और टच करता हुआ सीधा पीसी में जा रहा है। देयर आर वेरियस प्रॉब्लम्स। ब्रेथ क्या होगी, वही जैसे फॉर्मेटिव से लेके और सबमिटिव फीडबैक तक जाना है कि इनिशियल से स्टार्ट करना है, उसको एंड तक लेके जाना है। डिलीवरी के डिफरेंट मेथड्स हैं। आई लाइक सैंडविच मेथड, देयर आर अदर मेथड्स दिखाएंगे, 360 डिग्री भी है और बाकी चीजें भी हैं। बस 2-3 स्लाइड्स हैं। बैरियर क्या क्या होंगे, हम लोग कंसल्टेंट्स यूजुअली वेरी बिजी होते हैं, क्लासेस भी लेनी है, अंडर ग्रेड की भी लेनी है, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन की भी लेनी है, ओपीडी भुगताना है, थिएटर भी करना है, तो उस हवाले से टाइम लिमिटेशंस है, लेकिन आप टाइम यू कैन मैनेज इट विद द म्यूचुअल कोऑर्डिनेशन। नेगेटिव फीडबैक वेरी वेरी डेंजरस थिंग, कभी भी नेगेटिव फीडबैक ना दें, उसको इस पॉजिटिविटी के साथ दें कि वो अपनी जो इंप्रूवमेंट जो लर्निंग स्किल्स है इंप्रूव करे। हाँ, अगर आपका रेसिपिएंट है वो रेजिस्टेंट है, वो नहीं अपने आप को बेहतर कर रहा, तो यू आर इन अ डिलेमा, यू आर इन अ फिक्स। लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट कल्चर, यूजुअली लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट बनाना पड़ता है, आपको खुद डेवलप करना पड़ता है, सो दैट यू कैन हैव अ कंडूसिव एनवायरनमेंट, आपकी अच्छी हार्मनी, टीम बनाने की कोशिश करें, मेक अ टीम ऑफ योर रेजिडेंट्स। 3 इसमें सक्सेसफुल कीज हैं, स्ट्रक्चर क्या होगा, फॉर्मेट क्या होगा और कंटेंट क्या होंगे। रिगार्डिंग द स्ट्रक्चर, शेड्यूल करनी है फीडबैक को, पर्पसफुल मीटिंग हो कि आज हमने सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो है वो आईओपी असेसमेंट की बातें करनी है। डीएलएसएस जैसे बड़ा अच्छा रेजिडेंट ने बयान किया, आज हमने डीएलएसएस के मुताबिक डिस्कस करना है, सो दैट अननेसेसरीली हम जो है वो पेशेंट को, अगर एक पेशेंट को आपने एंटी ग्लाइकोमा ड्रग के ऊपर लगा दिया लेटानोप्रास्ट, अब वो हर महीने एंटी ग्लाइकोमा ड्रग लेता रहेगा और वो हर 6 महीने बाद उसको 4,000 to 6,000 रुपीज इस वक्त मिनिमम लाहौर में कॉस्ट कर रहा है उसे। क्यों सर, एम आई राइट? तो उसको आपने खाम खाई, वो आपने उसको एक जो है ना वो अननेसेसरी चीजों में डाल। फीडबैक शुड बी ऑब्जर्व ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ ऑब्जर्व नॉलेज एंड ऑब्जर्व बिहेवियर, क्योंकि बिहेवियर को भी हमने बेहतर करना है, खाली नॉलेज ही नहीं चेक करता जाना, बिहेवियरल प्रॉब्लम्स भी हमारे यहाँ काफी हैं लोगों में। फॉर्मेट क्या होगा, सेल्फ असेसमेंट कर सकते हैं, टीचर असेसमेंट अपनी भी उसको दे सकते हैं, यार मेरे ख्याल के मुताबिक हम ऐसे कर लें तो कैसा रहेगा, और ज्वाइंट एक्शन प्लान बनाएं। फॉर्मेट क्या होगा, फॉर्मेट इज कि एक सेशन आपने रख लेना है और क्लियर कर देना पहले दिन से कि यार इस हफ्ते जो आ रहा है, कमिंग सैटरडे जो है वो हम आफ्टर 12 पेशेंट का जब ओपीडी का कम बोझ हमारे से कम होगा तो वी विल सिट टुगेदर एंड वी विल डिस्कस वेरियस प्रॉब्लम्स व्हिच वी आर एनकाउंटरिंग व्हाइल डीलिंग विद द ओपीडी पेशेंट्स। और आपने अप्रोप्रिएट मॉडल रखना है, या तो मेरे ख्याल के मुताबिक आई ऑलवेज लाइक टू हैव अ सैंडविच टेक्निक, लेकिन पेंडल्टन पॉजिटिव क्रिट मेथड भी इस्तेमाल होता है, बट आई यूजुअली नॉट गिव इट बिकॉज इसके अपने साइड इफेक्ट, अपने एक जो नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स हैं। अभी आती है, दिखाते हैं आपको। हाँ जी, कंटेंट क्या है, कंटेंट में ये है कि वो उनको पहले प्रॉपर कंटेंट हमने तैयार करके रखना है। आज हमने ये लिखा हुआ मेरे पास पढ़ा हो कि ये चीजें मैंने आज डिस्कस करनी, 1-2 पॉइंट्स होंगे। एक पॉइंट होगा उसके नॉलेज के मुतालिक, एक होगा क्लिनिकल स्किल्स के मुतालिक, एक होगा मेरा बिहेवियरल प्रॉब्लम के मुतालिक। यार आप थोड़े से पेशेंट के साथ हार्श हो जाते हो, जब आप उसको समझाने लगते हो ना तो यू आर एक्टिंग एज ए ग्रैंडियोसिटी आपके बिहेवियर में आ जाती है, आप फील करते हो कि बस आप ही सुपीरियर हो, पेशेंट के लेवल के ऊपर नहीं आते, उसकी सूदिंग नहीं करते प्रॉपर। टीचर शुड हैव अ प्रिपेयर सेशन फॉर डायरेक्ट ऑब्जर्वेशन बाय द स्टूडेंट परफॉर्मेंस, और उसको जो डायरेक्ट आपने देखा खुद, ये नहीं है कि वार्ड बॉय ने कहा था या फलाने ने कहा था, इनडायरेक्टली नहीं आना, फलाने रेजिडेंट ने शिकायत की थी या एसआर ने कहा था कि ऐसे कर रहा है, ऐसे ऐसे नहीं करें, कोशिश करें डायरेक्ट खुद ऑब्जर्वेशन करके देखें कि वो किस तरह से बिहेव करता है। ये है फीडबैक टेक्निक्स। सबसे पहले है सैंडविच टेक्निक है, और मल्टी सोर्स 360 डिग्री, ये सीपीएसपी इस पे भी काफी जोर देता है, 360 डिग्री वैल्यूएशन करनी है, और आस्क टेल आस्क मेथड है, पेंडल्टन मेथड है, और R2C2 मेथड है। मैं 2-3 इस पे ज्यादा जोर दूंगा। सैंडविच टेक्निक, दिस इज अ सैंडविच टेक्निक। 2 पॉजिटिव थिंग्स, सैंडविच करें उसको विद नेगेटिव रिमार्क्स के साथ। प्रैक्टिकल एप्लीकेशन क्या है, यार आज आप आए थे, बड़े टाइमली आप आ गए ओपीडी में, और आपने पेशेंट्स को बड़ा अच्छे तरीके पे चेक किया, बट आई फील लाइक कि जब आप पेशेंट को चेक कर रहे थे तो आप बड़े हेस्टली थे, बड़ी जल्दी जल्दी फॉरवर्ड कर रहे थे। सर वो ओपीडी का बड़ा लोड था। भाई ओपीडी का लोड था, ठीक है, वेयर यू फाइंड कि ओपीडी का लोड है तो आप सेग्रीगेट कर लें, 10 आप कर लें, 10 दूसरा कर ले, 10 इस तरह से कर लें, उसको साथ में बताना है, ठीक है। फिर बाद में कहना है यस बट आपने चेकिंग बड़ी अच्छी की थी, आपने सारे पॉइंट चेक किए थे, वीएन के अलावा आपने आईओपी भी लिया था, आपने रिलेटिव अफरेंट पेपिलरी कंडक्शन डिफेक्ट भी चेक किया था, जहां डायलेशन की जरूरत थी डायलेशन भी चेक की थी, और जहां अप्रोप्रिएट था आपने उसको रेफर भी किया था फॉर सिस्टमिक इवैल्यूएशन के लिए। एडवांटेजेस क्या है, इट विल लेसन द नेगेटिव इंपैक्ट, जो उसको आपने गाइड करना था वो उसको उसकी सैंडविचिंग आपने कर दी है, लेकिन इसके पोटेंशियल लिमिटेशंस क्या है, नेगेटिव कहते हैं ना, प्रोज एंड कॉन्स क्या क्या है, डाइल्यूट हो जाएगा इंपैक्ट जो आप उसको बताना चाहते हैं, वो डाइल्यूशन होगी, जो बात आपने करनी थी वो बस बहुत अच्छा जा रहा है, क्या बात है, तो ये जो है ये इस चीज को ना वो आपने डाइल्यूट नहीं होना। मल्टी सोर्स फीडबैक, इसका बेसिक फार्मूला क्या है, राइट फ्रॉम द गेट्स, जो गेटमैन खड़ा हुआ है ना, चौकीदार कह लें या आपका जो वार्ड बॉय, वहां से लेके स्टाफ नर्स से लेके ओटीए तक से लेके और जो आपके उसके कुलीग्स हैं, सबसे आपने लेना है उसका फीडबैक कि यार इसका बताएं कि इसका कैसे है, थिएटर में इसका कैसे बिहेवियर होता है, ओपीडी में कैसे काम करता है ये। दिस इज 360 डिग्री वैल्यूएशन, आपकी अपनी तो है ही वैल्यूएशन, तो दिस इज अ 360 डिग्री वैल्यूएशन। इसका एडवांटेज क्या होगा कि आपको एक ब्रॉडर प्रोस्पेक्ट मिल जाएगा कि वो लोअर स्टाफ के साथ कैसे डील करता है, नर्सिंग स्टाफ के साथ इसकी डीलिंग कैसी है, हाँ जी, और जो हमारे जेनिटोरियल स्टाफ है उससे पूछें, वार्ड एंड वॉच वालों से पूछें, तो मिसबिहेव तो नहीं करता आप लोगों के साथ, शाउट तो नहीं करता। दिस विल गिव यू आइडिया रिगार्डिंग हिज बिहेवियरल प्रॉब्लम्स। लिमिटेशंस क्या हैं, ये आपको एक बहुत पूरा एक सिनेरियो डेवलप करना पड़ेगा, टाइम कंज्यूमिंग है, स्पेसिफिसिटी इसमें कम हो जाएगी। पेंडल्टन मॉडल जो है वो थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल रेसिपिएंट इज आस्क्ड व्हाट वेंट वेल एंड देन टोल्ड व्हाट वेंट वेल। तीसरा क्या है, देन द रेसिपिएंट इज आस्क्ड व्हाट कुड बी इंप्रूव्ड एंड देन द योर टीचर और योर कंसल्टेंट will be told how it can be improved. So this is a little bit lengthy process है। इसके एडवांटेजेस जो हैं, ये इनकरेज करेगा रिफ्लेक्शन को, which is another term which is being coined mostly in the medical educationist। लेकिन इसके इम्पैक्ट क्या आएंगे नेगेटिव, वो इम्पीड कर देगा डिस्कशन को, जो कि मोर वैल्यूएबल है फॉर द इंप्रूवमेंट लर्नर के लिए, उसको ये इम्पीड कर देता है। ऐसा नहीं था, ऐसे नहीं करना, गुस्सा नहीं करना ना मेरी जान, गुस्सा नहीं करना, ठीक है सर। तो ये जो है ये जरा वो उसका नाम क्या है, ये मैं कहता हूँ यार कभी भी गुस्सा ना करो, पेशेंट अगर कोई मिसबिहेव कर भी रहा है तो बर्दाश्त कर लो, बर्दाश्त करना ज्यादा बेहतर। आजकल सारे प्रॉब्लम जो है वो क्यों आ रहे हैं, अदम बर्दाश्त, टॉलरेंस कम हो गई।
Thank
So,
you,
yeah.
Mrs. Jones, for letting me
No, sir.
examine you
Okay.
today.
Video.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Shall we go to the doctor's office to discuss how that went?
I was thinking I could just send you my e-portfolio ticket over the internet.
Why don't we do 5 minutes of feedback first, and then I'll fill in your ticket. So you've just performed an abdominal examination. How do you think it went? What went well?
I tried to do it with a structure, but actually I forgot to percuss for ascites.
Okay, let's focus on the positive things first. What about your introduction? How did that go?
Okay, so I washed my hands, I introduced myself, I asked permission, and I checked whether the patient was in any pain. And she seemed quite happy to have me examine her.
Yeah, so you had a good patient manner, which was good because it put the patient at ease. There were other good things as well. What else can you think of?
So I generally inspected. So I saw that she had IV fluids. There was a nil by mouth line, and she had an appendectomy scar.
Yeah, so your inspection was very thorough. I could see that because you even moved around the bed to make sure that you caught everything. Now, inspection on ward patients is a very important part of the examination because you pick up a lot of things. Even in exams, it's often rushed. So, well done on that. Anything else that you can think of that was good? I would add a couple of things. I think you took a systematic approach to your examination, so you covered all of the relevant parts, and it was well paced as well, so you completed it in the time that you would normally have to do an examination. So well done. Anything that you think you could improve on in the future?
Okay, so I forgot to check for ascites. My percussion note wasn't loud enough, and I couldn't feel the kidneys.
All right, let's deal with the kidneys first then. So, how would you normally feel for a kidney?
So I'd put one hand behind the patient and one hand on the top of the abdomen, and then I would push from the bottom hand up and feel the kidney against my top hand.
Yeah, so you got it right. If you do it with me, the point is that the top hand is static and the bottom hand is the one that's doing all the work, and it's a feeling of ballotting the kidney. Now, even I can't ballot the kidneys on this patient because they're not enlarged, so don't worry about that. You talked about ascites, so how would you normally percuss for ascites?
So I
हाँ जी, कौन सा मॉडल यूज किया? पेंडलेटन यूज किया, ठीक है? तो वो आस्क टेल वाला है और बड़ा ब्यूटीफुली कैसे उसने आराम से उसको बुला के अपने ऑफिस में, और फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ही asking what has happened and he is telling him that that can be improved. So this is the best way also of in which working environment you are. Thank you very much.